Good evening, everyone. I'm so excited to welcome you this evening. My name is Julie Enzer, and I'm happy that you're here tonight for the launch of Sinister Wisdom 130. We teach sex to everyone. My name is Julie Enzer, which I think I already said. I'm so happy you're here. We have a fantastic celebration this evening, and I want to thank you for coming and encourage you to sit back, relax for what I think may be our hottest reading of the season. Before we begin, though, it has become our custom to spend a moment for a land acknowledgement. This moment is particularly potent at this time of war in the Middle East. I am mindful as we gather together this evening of the many layers of the conflict in Israel and Palestine, and I know that at this time, many of us are mourning the loss of life, the continued occupation of the Palestinian people by Israel, and the ongoing war and conflict. It has been a very difficult and painful 10 days. As we pause for our land acknowledgement this evening, I also want to ask us to raise up our voices for peace at this painful time. In the United States and around the world, many of us are on occupied, unceded land. I am in what is now Dover, Florida, traditional homelands and territories of the Seminole. I invite you to insert into the chat your location and acknowledge the land on which you live as we pause to recognize these histories of war and colonizations and the ongoing realities of war and colonization that are in our lives today. As we imagine and work for a world where we have a more fair and equitable distribution of resources, and a world where we can find ways to honor one another and live in peace. To get us started this evening, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Sinister Wisdom. If you're not familiar with it, Sinister Wisdom is a quarterly journal of lesbian literature and art. Sinister Wisdom started in 1976 by Harriet Des Moines and Catherine Nicholson, and we've been publishing consistently since then. Tonight, we are celebrating a collection that is nearly 3 years in the making, that is Sinister Wisdom 130, We Teach Sex to Everyone. This issue is now in the mail, and most subscribers should have it. This issue is also really exciting and wonderful for me because it is the 50th issue that I have published as the editor and publisher of the journal. If you are not currently a subscriber to Sinister Wisdom, I encourage you to sign up for a subscription today by going to sinisterwisdom.org/subscribe. A group of monthly sustainers is vital to Sinister Wisdom. If you can make a monthly gift, please sign up as a sustainer at sinisterwisdom.org/sustainers. Sinister Wisdom sends out emails every month when your gift comes in as a monthly sustainer with behind-the-scene details and new information about what we have coming and happening in the journal. A few housekeeping notes before we begin. First, as you came in, your microphone should have been muted. Please keep it that way throughout the program. If we detect noise, we will mute you. Belle Pitkin is on tap to help with technology things, so you can chat with Belle. Remember, there is an opportunity to unmute and wave and cheer at the end of our program this evening. As the program proceeds, if you want to show appreciation for our readers, which I know you will, you're welcome to wave your hands at the end of each reading. Use the reaction emojis on Zoom, which you can go ahead and test now, and put comments into the chat to appreciate readers, to talk with other people who are here tonight. Some of the best things of our events always are happening in the chat, and we do make the chat available on the website where we share the video the next day. If you need technical assistance this evening, chat with Belle, as I mentioned. And as I also mentioned, we are recording this event and we will make it available starting tomorrow or Thursday at sinisterwisdom.org/SW130. I'm just going to go back to Zoom. Yes, indeed, we are recording. I'm relieved about that. I told everyone sometimes we make that little mistake in our program. So that's the end of my announcements. Thank you. Without further delay, we will begin. As I mentioned, this is a really special issue of the journal, and we have a fantastic lineup of readers who are going to share with you parts of their contribution to Sinister Wisdom 130, We Teach Sex to Everyone. We've organized the program throughout the evening to increase in its heat and intensity and sexiness, so that by the end, everyone will be relieved to get on their feet and dance to our signature song, The L Word. Our program unfolds tonight first with a reading by our two intrepid co-editors of this issue, who I will introduce in a moment. In my opening notes for a magazine, I wrote about this issue: sex is something we teach. Sex is something we learn. Sex is both process and action. Sex is metaphor and simile and visual and guide. It is oral and more and more. This issue of Sinister Wisdom joins a long tradition of issues of Sinister Wisdom that make bare, pun intended, lesbian bodies and lesbian sex, queer bodies and queer sex. What I did not write in my notes is that this issue builds on a Sinister Wisdom tradition of collaborative editing. I have been so impressed by the brilliant editorial and curatorial collaboration between Kristy Billuni and July Westhale. They work together with great bonhomie from my perspective, bringing good spirit, powerful insights, and a certain editorial vision to the project that produced this extraordinary issue of the journal. Individually, Kristy and July are accomplished writers and editors. Together, their work is extraordinary. We will insert their full biographies into the chat, and I encourage you to stay tuned to them and their future work, which will, I know, continue to delight and inspire us. This evening, I'm so pleased that they will begin our program with a shared reading from their notes for a special issue, which, among many other wonderful things, is really an intimate conversation between two friends. Kristy and July, I invite you to please kick off our reading for the evening.
Thank you so much, Julie. Thanks everyone for being here. It's really wonderful to see all of your beautiful faces. Dear you, this issue you're hearing from today is the culmination of many, many years of work. Some of this work was done before you were born, before you were conceived of. More recently, this work was done over distance and the impenetrable space of Zoom, lockdown, back and forth emails, and submittable and phone calls and text messages. It was done while hundreds of thousands of people died, some to illness and some to violence, and many by hands that were supposed to keep them safe. It was done over divorces and cross-country moves. It was done while planning wedding speeches, while helping deliver babies. The work of sex, teaching it, learning it, diving into it, avoiding it, paying for it, being paid for it, is as pedestrian as anything. Even, and here's the point that we and all our contributors make over and over, when it is not commonly represented, or rather, is only represented when it comes to certain demographics.
Dear you, I planned my niece's holiday gift with vengeance in my heart. One gift to wipe out all the secrets my family tried to hide from me at the age of 13, to avenge the fear-mongering, the silence, the shame instilled in me. One gift to rain down sweet revenge. I researched the latest books for teens about sex and changing bodies. I consulted with colleagues with all the feminist and queer book lists, ordered 2 books, wrapped them up, and set out for a Billuni family holiday gathering. On the drive, I plotted with my wife. Helen would distract the others while I stole young Sierra away to the privacy of her bedroom to present the spoils of sex-positive anti-triumph. Did you know that I'm a sex educator? I asked her when I handed over the plain brown paper wrapped books. She shook her head. And so I want my niece to have all the information about sex and bodies and sexuality at her fingertips, I went on conspiratorially. And I am here to talk about anything you want to talk about. She fingered the packages. Open, open, I prompted her. Where's Auntie Helen? It's okay, I assured her. Helen knows I'm giving these to you. I didn't think we'd get any privacy if all three of us disappeared from the party. Sierra frowned. I want to open these with my other presents, with everyone. Are you sure? My turn to frown. Sierra set the gifts aside and hugged me. Thanks, Auntie Kristy, she said earnestly. Don't worry, it won't be embarrassing. Want to meet my bird?
I want to tell you how I met Kristy Lynn Billuni. I was naked, under a medical drape, on a massage table in a mutual friend's basement. In one hand, I clutched a set of laminated documents covered in medical diagrams of breast tissue. With the other, I lowered my gown. Then things fell apart. The dialogue, honed and perfected by standardized patients everywhere, fell away from me. I was topless, and Kristy, along with two other gynecological teaching associates, including Bex Mcfe, were staring at me. I forgot. I'm sorry. I lifted the drape back up over my tits. That's okay, Kristy said, her brown eyes kind and smiling a little. That's what this work is.
My budding teenage niece called me out for teaching shame around sex information. I humbly watched as she opened the wrapped books, seated comfortably between my mother and hers on the couch that evening, showing the gifts around like a thoughtful holiday scarf. Not only did she teach me something about how to teach sex without shame, she validated a theory of mine when she came out to my wife and me as bisexual a few months later. Wherever I find queer women, I find sex education. I find sex educators. Wherever I find sex educators, I find queer women. We are Dr. Seussian in our anything goes sex ed contexts. We will teach it in a car. We will teach it at the bar.
This is what the work is, my dear friends. This is exactly what brought this collection of poems, essays, stories, and art to you today. For what is more, we teach sex to everybody than learning how to teach a breast exam, learning how to maneuver a speculum with a group of sweet, social justice-oriented queers and ex-sex workers in a basement.
When we exchange sex information in our communities, teachers become learners, become teachers, become learners. My niece became my teacher at that holiday gathering. July's story about our first meeting when I taught her how to teach a breast exam doesn't end there. It extends many years into the future to when they and other next generation sex educators like Bex Mcfe and Mags taught my generation how to make more space for gender fluidity. And it extends into the present as she holds my hand through the final throes of birthing this magazine.
The baseline is this: communities learn by community. This is a fact, driven by necessity and survival and scarcity, yes, but also driven by resilience and strength and the hard-won knowledge that comes with having to do it yourself. This is what the work is. One last point of note, because I would be remiss to not acknowledge the container Sinister Wisdom plays in all of this. It occurs to me, in the way that marginalized folks are responsible for radicalizing forms and space as a response to being left out of the main conversation, that this is similar to the work we're talking about when we talk about community education versus the classroom. And not to put too fine a point on it, an issue of a journal is actually the perfect container for a collection of work about reclaiming space and the right to have a voice and a story. The form, my friends, enacts the content.
Thank you both. Thank you both so much for your work and for bringing this beautiful form and content and issue into the world with us. I of course want to hold up the cover, which I feel like you all made me very brave to publish it out of Florida, a giant embroidered vulva. And we had I'll just tell a little story here. We had an earlier draft of this, and you communicated with the artist Anne Haddix, I believe is on the front cover, right? I'm not sure if Anne's here this evening, but we had an earlier draft of this and we had it cropped a little bit. And so I sent it out to Kristy in July and said, here, I think it looks really beautiful. What do you think? Please share it with the artist. And they did. And they came back with the great feedback from Anne of like, well, the crop really cuts out some of the butt. And so we went back, we fixed it so that we have the full artwork. And then because the artist for the back cover, I'll hold this up. Someone was saying to me that she had the newest issue of Sinister Wisdom on her coffee table. And she said she had some guests coming over and she said, well, maybe I'll cover it up and put the back cover on the top of the coffee table while these presumably straight people come over. And so she did that. And of course, they sit down on the couch and they say, oh, what is this? And they go to the back image, right, which I'll hold up a little closer there. And this is an incredible photographic image by Juno Rosenhaus, who I'm going to add Juno right here so that you can all appreciate Juno's work. Which also is an incredible contribution to this issue. So I want to thank you all for the courage and bravery and wonderful things that you have done. And look here's Anne H. just entering the room as I'm telling the story about all of that. So thank you all very much for your work in making this beautiful issue. And now I'm going to actually, Belle, if you would unpin Kristy, July, and Juno, I'll go and start our introduction to our next reader. But thank you all for indulging me in that. And thank you for the wonderful reading and your work. I want to also add at this point that this celebration of Sinister Wisdom 130, We Teach Sex to Everyone, continues live and in person at the San Francisco Public Library on Thursday, November 9th at 6 p.m. Pacific time. So if you are in the area, I hope you will join this incredible event. We're so thrilled that Kim Shuck, the former poet laureate of San Francisco, is hosting us as a part of her reading series. And the reading will include Megs Yen Chuang Matthews, Ray Diamond, Henry Bensusan, Juno Rosenhaus, Riley Hurst, and Kristy Lynn Billuni. So you'll have a chance to see all of those characters live and in person at the San Francisco Public Library, which is a really extraordinary and wonderful space. So I encourage you to join us for that on November 9th at 6 p.m. Our next reader, and I'm going to take a little moment here and do the house cleaning. Our next reader, and then I'll introduce after because I have no memory. I was telling everyone it is midterms, and so I've been reading student papers much to my delight. But returning to our program, our next reader is Beth Benson, who shares with us the poem that provided the title of this issue. And so I'm really thrilled that Beth can join us this evening. Please join me in welcoming Beth Benson. Thank you.
Look, there are words in it, and I wrote some of them. 47 years, this amazing publication, 50 of them all yours, Julie. It's a big, deep, marvelous honor to be included in this issue. We teach sex to everyone. We teach sex to everyone, or rather they learn on us, use our bodies just like the dummies for practicing the breath of life. Sex makes breath hot and heavy, insistent, taking in that stuff that flares the nostrils and throws the head back and exposes the Adam's apple in the bite. She takes from her, there is this truth. Wombs are where we come from, where we live inside as we put ourselves together, as we make up what we make up as sinew and bone. The ideas come later about what that was like, living inside a woman, living inside a womb. As we treat her body, so we treat the earth. Or is it a trick we perpetrate upon her? Is she a trick and a lie? Or the whole beauty-filled anguish we can't extinguish of truth? Never more true than when consent is in the making, when woman is the lover, when love herself is the teacher. How we use her or abuse her is in the learning of this sex.
Thank you so much, Beth. That was wonderful. I'm so grateful you're here tonight. I'm also really happy to introduce you to our next reader, who's a long-time supporter of Sinister Wisdom and a regular attendee at our events. If you close your eyes and think back to different Sinister Wisdom events, you might be able to see Henry Bensusan dancing, as Henry has been a regular dancer to the L word and is now included in the pages of Sinister Wisdom 130. Please join me in welcoming Henry Bensusan.
Well, thank you very much. I was awed by Beth's entree. That's great. I wish I had her hair too. I'm going to read a poem in this that's not in this issue, but it is a prep for what happened. You have no idea how it is for a woman who's not a bottle of port. Aging isn't going well. Take this splendid sunrise already merging into blue and imagine me 10 years ago when I was somewhat beautiful. Chromatic notes have faded to the scale of gray, forfeiture of brightness in every cell, except a few up in the brain, the ones that can't remember how old they are, like that bell that got Pavlov's dog to salivate. I rise to an intensity of longing in the presence of a tall, sexual butch, pristinely starched, pledged to sisterly friendship, she says. Not the sort of wild sunrise I ardently desired still. And so some weeks later, full moon night, which we didn't notice, so deep are we in each other, these trellised weekends of vining jasmine, weaving into a new spring, an abundance of white blossoms, this immersion in love, lovemaking, richly different from former attempts, truer, more prized, and us now unburdened. A patchwork of scraps, how we kept it together, a rip out of seams, rethread of needle, fashioning our bodies to a purer form of love, a finer form of lust. And then as the weeks went by, I had a warning for my lover. Wanderer in a weed patch. Beware of that charmer you've fallen for, no pale blue love in a mist, more a mix of vinegar and salt from the seas of Babylon, strewing your path with nettles and snake root, wormwood, mugwort, the delirium of love lies bleeding crankcase oils of her inheritance. What patch of tarweed and beggar ticks will catch you when you pitch so insistently into her arms, dependent as you are on the logic of lust? What risk? To come forth like the goddess from her retreat to the underworld and hold that body close to yours for one long moment, a lasting crush and firefall rendered into the coins of her kingdom. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Henry. Joining us next is a white genderqueer sex educator and gynecological teaching associate who says genital in public as often as possible. Please join me in welcoming Bex Mcfe.
Hello, everyone. I'm not the only gynecological teaching associate here, which is really wonderful. So I will read excerpts from this. It's taking an academic turn, taking a clinical turn, which sometimes we have to do. In medical education, students are taught lessons that anticipate the patients they should expect to meet over the course of their careers. Without explicit description of that patient or explorations of normative assumptions, students readily rely on a default cultural imaginary of a typical patient, average person, and normal concerns. The imagined typical patient easily comes to embody dominant understandings of good sexuality. A heteronormative model easily prevails, one that extends beyond sexual preference to include sexual practice, gender identity, expression, roles, relationship style, size, ability, class, and race. This hegemonic cultural imaginary of a typical patient excludes many bodies, identities, and health behaviors, and these othered people come to seem irrelevant to medicine. Medical providers are unprepared to receive and care for stigmatized patients. Health disparities are left unchallenged, if not exacerbated. Some gynecological teaching associates, or GTAs, try to interrupt understandings of this default heteronormative typical patient. GTAs are educators who teach pelvic and breast exams within healthcare schools by acting as both instructors and models. After addressing the interpersonal aspects of the exam and patient interview and walking through the technical steps involved in them, GTAs undress and invite students to practice those lessons on the GTA's own bodies and with the GTA's guidance. Sessions are usually small, with 3 to 5 students per GTA, and last between 2 and 4 hours to allow for individualized feedback. GTAs have an unusual role in medical education. They are not themselves medical providers or faculty, and their expertise comes from embodied knowledge of their own anatomy and trainings by more experienced GTAs, including some in this room. Their dual roles as educators and as exam recipients afford them a special position in medical pedagogy and special opportunities to discuss sensitive topics that may not otherwise be addressed. GTAs must enact strategies for establishing and maintaining authority inside the professionalized system they navigate in their pursuit of social change. Even as the educators of this project concede the importance of professional standards, for instance, the students treat me with more authority if I have the button-down shirt on, they simultaneously resist them. Non-traditional style choices and gender non-conforming bodies support the educators as they challenge the typical textbook image of a gynecological patient. Some of the variation is imparted verbally. Other times, the information is shared silently through the GTA's embodied presence. As Alex explains, I'm just there being like, your patients might look like me. FYI, you might not have seen me before or people like me, but your patients might look like me, and now you know. Alex, who wears a beard, recognizes that their bodily expression may not be expected in the medical education context, that the imaginary typical woman patient does not have facial hair, and considers their very presence a lesson for the students. Encountering a non-normative person in a position of relative power, someone with skills to teach them, provides students with an opportunity to question their expectations about who can teach them and who will need them to provide medical attention and care. Queer people are marginalized in medicine when medical providers think only of heterosexuality and are unprepared to address non-heterosexual behavior. Several educators described experiences with this as patients and as GTAs. Jordan, for instance, recalls clinical situations I'd been in where providers didn't know how to ask about the sex I'm having. Not knowing how to ask about or broach different kinds of sex places the onus on the patient to explain themselves, which some people are more comfortable doing than others and takes time away from more pressing healthcare needs. GTAs confront heteronormative assumptions of the nuclear family. Carla explains that because someone says she's a lesbian doesn't mean we're going to skip the question about pregnancy. Lesbians may be as interested in planning pregnancy or at risk of accidental pregnancy as straight women are. Alex, who has experienced childbirth as a queer person, goes into more detail. We can spend a little while on me explaining why lesbians might be interested in information about preventing or achieving pregnancy, and like someone not having sex is not the same as them not planning a pregnancy. While penis and vagina sex is the most common way to achieve pregnancy, it is not the only method. Sperm banks may be separate from gynecological clinics, and at-home artificial insemination may occur in the home. Nevertheless, the process of pregnancy is considered medical in nature. If medical providers deem it important to inquire about some pregnancy, they should be aware of all the ways it may occur. The fact that someone identifies as a lesbian does not necessarily say everything about what kind of sex they are engaging in or what medical intervention they may need. By challenging the health implications of certain sexual orientations, the GTAs are challenging the clinical relevance of such categories more widely. These assumption-challenging lessons all come with similar solutions. Instead of generalizing about identity, students can ask directly about what is clinically relevant. It simplifies the student's job, as it means medical providers are not expected to know everything about all populations. GTAs may portray the message that identity does not matter, or they may be saying that it matters so much as to not be worth guessing about or erroneously bringing up. In either case, they are preparing students to think outside of the heteronormative box. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bex. Thank you for the article. Thank you for your work and making medical care better for us all. Since I know it's coming up, I do want to take this minute to do a quick little advertisement. Belle Pitkin, who's running our technology this evening, is also our calendar curator. And if you have not ordered your 2024 calendar, I encourage you to do so today. It's $18 at sinisterwisdom.org/calendar. It's beautiful, fantastic artwork throughout it. There are thumbnails on the back. It's really special, and I do expect we will run out before the end of December. And also to note, everyone should have received the annual lesbian badge this year with the theme of radical creativity, which also came from Belle Pitkin. It's our 8th badge in our series. Is it our 8th or our 7th? It's our 7th or 8th badge in the series. Some people are collecting them all and building the jacket with the lesbian badges all over them to show for it. So if that's you, send us a photograph. We love getting those. Let's see, I'm looking for our next speaker to pin before I introduce them. Excellent. All right. So thank you, Bex. Thank you, Belle, for the calendar. Everyone, please order your calendar and your badge now. And now I would like to introduce to you Megs Yen Chuang Matthews. Megs identifies as a bi and pansexual dyke dancer, mother, and educator, now working from unceded Nisinan land in Sacramento, California. Megs will be reading excerpts from their work, I Teach Sex, Free the Breath, Free the Vulva. Please join me in welcoming Megs. Megs, you are muted.
I teach sex in a stifled white lab coat kind of love. A white lab coat kind of love kind of way. As a pelvic physical therapist, I help people of all genders with their whole bodies, and I specialize in bowel, bladder, reproductive, and sexual function. That means that my attention and my hands are often outside and inside of my patients. Pelvic bowl, vaginas, anuses, mouths, and on the abdomen, back, and hips. With the intelligence in my hands, I can assess and treat dysfunctions in the organs, soft tissues, muscles, joints, and nerves. I use my voice and touch to educate and guide each person to more awareness and power in their body. It might be the most intimate form of healthcare. Over the course of 3+ months, I get to know my clients and guide them to change their lives. They might eliminate pain, have more enjoyable sex, stop leaking, improve digestion and their menstrual cycles, stop using the bathrooms every 20 minutes, and prepare for or recover from pregnancy or surgery, among many other benefits. Coordinated breathing centers the root to your pleasure. Breathing deeply modulates sex, your sexual organs, and your sexual muscles. A strong diaphragm gives you emotional strength and grit, stimulating your vagus nerve and your parasympathetic nervous system to relax, rest, digest, and arouse. A weak diaphragm leads to dysfunction in sex, anxiety, back pain, imbalance and falling, urinary leakage, frequency, swelling, acid reflux, and constipation. Not allowing full breath to pass through you halts digestion and holds waste from leaving your body. Hold your emotions and you stop breathing from the diaphragm. Hold your expression tight and your gut and vulva will suffer. Now, center into your body. Breathe in and hold it. Let the atmosphere push the air slowly back out through your nose without any effort. In and out breathing like a gentle ocean wave, slowly washing the tension out of your bones, out of your muscles, and out of your knots. Breathing with ease. The ocean of air, powerful, strong, and without effort. Breathing without cessation from your moist nose all the way through your gut to your pelvic floor, washing the tension out of your vagina through the legs all the way to the soles of your feet. As your sensuous body awakens to this relaxed, engorged, body-focused state, your breath deepens. Sandcastles of anxiety and worry melt away. Your blood vessels dilate and your blood pressure lowers. Your breath stimulates more blood circulation and freedom in your pelvic bowl and awakens the nerve endings to your vulva. Your pelvic floor muscles tighten and release against and with the strain of pressure from your breath. Try enhancing the pressure by engaging and relaxing your pelvic floor. Squeeze like you are pulling your vagina closed, up and in behind your pubic bone on either the in or out breath. As your pelvic floor muscles relax, open and stretch towards your feet, fluid rushes into the vulvar blood vessels. The engorgement of blood arouses your clitoris. Play with your breathing and pelvic muscles like a dolphin jumping in the waves. With easy cruising along the currents of air, diving up and down, and with explosive bursts of jumping energy. Breathe stronger, faster, and without control to high peaks, crashing waves over and over and over again. If you are aroused, you may want to take breaks from reading to further explore your pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Megs. That was a pleasure. Mcfe Hashiki's divine purpose is helping folks heal their erotic wounds, deepen their relationship with their body and the divine, and move further along in their path to erotic liberation. Please welcome Mcfe Hashiki.
Buenas todas. Buenas tardes a todos. I'm so happy to be here. And I was just mentioning to someone in the chat that I'm a former gynecological teaching associate, and it is one of the proudest accomplishments in my life. So I will start now. There's a knock at the door. I rise to open it. I'm wearing a baggy blue jumpsuit that covers my ridges, my folds, but you can see the fat jiggling at my elbow when I move my arm to open the door. She enters. We hug and sit facing each other across from a painting of a big-cheeked, big-lipped, doe-eyed Black woman with a Billie Holiday reminiscent flower in her hair. I ask how the home assignments went. She tells me what came up for her. She moves to the massage room, undresses, lies on the heated massage table. I enter when she says she's ready. I guide her through some deep breathing to center herself, through a visualization to connect with the earth and with her body, and the massage begins. Slow strokes, long strokes, deep strokes. She sighs and releases tension. At some point, I straddle the table, my thick legs hanging down either side. I place her thick brown thighs on my meaty brown thighs, tenderly massaging the flesh, letting Oshun use me as a conduit to help this sister remember her sacredness. I place my hands on her pubic mound and ask reverently, "May I enter?" She says yes, and my gloved, lubricated fingers gently spread her outer and inner lips, seeking entrance, finding knots of tension, feeling a lack of pulse in some places and a strong drumbeat in others. I ask her about the places my massaging fingers are drawn to, and she tells me when images and thoughts come unbidden as I touch her inner ridges and folds. As she starts to cry, I breathe deeply and relax more into the table. In this moment, we are two fat Black women remembering our beauty, serving as mirrors for one another, our beauty and our struggle to stay present with both, reflected in the gorgeous artwork that fills the space. The faces and lips and feet of other fat Black women, lovingly rendered by another fat Black woman. Black women healing Black women, being healed surrounded by images of Black women. Hashtag fat Black girl magic, indeed. I've been in the business of helping people have better sexual and erotic lives for most of my adult life. I've not always charged money for it, nor always had a clear idea of what I was doing, but it's an integral part of my life. In fact, I know that I was put on this earth for that very purpose. I am here to lead others to the divine via their flesh. There was a time when I did that for free using my body. Now I get paid for it using solely my hands and my voice and my brain. I am a certified sexological body worker, a certified sound voice and music healer, and a certified tantric sacred intimate. I use what I learned in these trainings along with my lived experiences as a fat, Black, middle-aged, femme-top dyke trauma survivor to help people heal their erotic and sexual wounds, to help folks access their erotic energy as transformative fuel, to help people have the joyful and satisfying erotic and sexual lives that I believe is their divine birthright. Sexological bodywork is a form of healing work developed by Joseph Kramer in 2003 and approved by the state of California. It is a form of somatic education, meaning that the client's education is experiential rather than something taken in and processed solely in the brain. Sexological bodywork uses the modalities of breathwork and touch to help the client reach a meditative state in which transformation and healing can happen. Sound, voice, and music healing is an ancient form of healing practiced globally by many different traditions. The certification process I went through is a year-long program at an accredited institution located in California, followed by a year-long advanced practice. Sacred intimacy is not so much a modality as it is a particular worldview about the sacredness of the body and pleasure. My Tantra teachers are part of Swami Rama's Tantric lineage, and I use those Tantra principles as the framework to interpret and address wounding and healing. I am also a practitioner of Ifa, a West African pre-colonial spiritual tradition, and I use my knowledge of Oshun in some of the workshops I teach and the exercises I give to clients. While our body behavior expresses much of how we experience our wounding, I also believe that the body itself is the ultimate healer. I see my job in sessions as providing a container for people to access the healing energy located in the body, energy that we don't have steady access to because of the inner workings of the mind. In other words, I help people shut their minds up so they can hear their body's voice. In my work, I embody the archetypes of the wounded healer, the lover, the priestess, and the wise woman. I call on Oshun as my patroness and make of myself a conduit for her energy to flow through me. I am a feminist whore who heals.
Thank you so much, Mkali Hashiki. A pleasure to hear you read. I'm going to introduce our final two readers together, and they will read one right after the other, and then I'll return. Leo Blooms is a mentor, pro-dom, writer, artist, and sex educator who is passionate about learning, sharing, and empowering others to live their best lives. Brandolyn Blooms got to know her partner, Leo Blooms, over a video connection every night during the first 3 months of their relationship. Please join me in welcoming Leo and Brandolyn.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome. It's an honor to be here with so many wonderful voices. Thank you so much. I'm going to be reading an excerpt from my piece that's in this issue that's called Haircuts. Chunks of partially wet hair fall gently on my naked shoulders and chest, soft as snowflakes, while I sit in the stiff wooden chair and just my unders, watching her. She's put the buzzer down after mowing the sides of my head, and now she's trimming the top, carefully examining the hair pulled taut between her fingers, lips pursed in concentration. I'm on high alert, and to be honest, dying just a little while I wait, hoping she'll lace her fingers through the shock of hair on top and move my head around firmly and with determination while she works. The anticipation is delicious, but it wasn't always this way. As a pro-dom, I'm fantastic at holding top space and creating a boundary-held playground for my clients. I've never been interested in bottoming for anyone. There were times when training a new dom how to be better at their work when I would play at being a bottom for a limited time. And even though I could see potential benefit for myself in that space, I couldn't see how it would work. It was a thought that crossed my mind every now and again and then quickly left. I hadn't met the person who could keep me in bottom space, so I didn't take the idea seriously until Brandolyn. Long before I moved in, back when we sent short videos to each other multiple times a day to flirt and get to know each other better, the idea that I would ever allow her to cut my hair and clean it up would have sounded beyond ridiculous to me. Terrifying. I've spent most of my life feeling like anything to do with my body is disgusting, including the hair that gets cut off my head. I've always felt bad for the person I've paid to do that service for me, assuaging my fears and guilt with knowing it's their literal job, and at least I tip them well for how terrible it must be. In one of those early videos, I've assigned her homework, and she sends back a reply that she'd love to do it and adds that there's some homework I can do for her. My video back shows my amused yet stern face, like the kind but strict pro-dom I am. I assign the homework. I don't think you know how this works, I say, shaking my head, almost chuckling. She replies simply, I think I know exactly how this works. And then she smiles, her eyes flash, and I remember the amazing jolt that went through my body. I suddenly wanted something very badly that I didn't even know the shape of. I knew what it felt like, though, and I was willing to try and figure it out with her. Being a pro-dom means I understand the rules, I make the rules, I keep the rules, and I enforce the rules. I'm good at it, and there's a whole lot of safety and comfort in that for me. Brandolyn and I talked a few times about different ways we could facilitate me entering a bottom space with her. It's like learning a new skill. I was very clunky, and it wasn't always fun and games. I had a lot to learn before I could master the skill of the switch. How do you go from being the one in the dynamic who is holding it all together to giving up all control? One time in the kitchen, she pushed me up against the wall like I always did to her, grabbing my hair and pulled my head back. Where did she learn these moves anyway? Kissed me hard, god damn it, and told me to be a good boy. As I tried to keep my knees from buckling, she pulled away, told me to have fun out there running errands, and I started to cry. I had no idea how to pull myself back up to top space and drive a car in that bottom energy state. I mumbled something about, please don't do that to me before I'm about to leave the house, brushed the tears off my cheeks, and went and sat down on the couch to evaluate what had just happened. I hate being bad at something, and I was bad at switching into bottom space and then back out again, which was something I really, really wanted to be good at, which made it more frustrating. Thanks to the pandemic and barbershops closing down, I was about to get the opportunity to get real good at it. Let me set the scene. It's May 2020. I'm in a flare, meaning I can't raise my arms even to shoulder height very well or for very long because of the autoimmune conditions I have and the chronic pain they create. I can't comb or wash my own hair right now, let alone cut it off myself, as ill-advised as that would have been. You've seen the bangs that came out of the pandemic. The sides of my head are getting more than shaggy. I can't go back to the cute queerish barber I'd only had one haircut with before everything closed down. One of us casually suggests we do our hair at home ourselves. I'll cut yours if you cut mine, I say, completely forgetting how I feel about haircuts and my hair specifically being gross and how disgusting it makes me. She wrangled the mane on top of my head into a very small and pokey pony and switched the buzzer on. And then I remembered, suddenly and with great panic, about how disgusting I was. I was terrified she was going to find me gross. Worse, she'd think I was gross and she'd be unable to tell me to leave because of the pandemic. My hair was now quickly covering everything like a layer of stiff, salt and pepper colored coarse animal hide, and she seemed to be hiding her reaction really well. I tried to hide my tears as mortification filled my body. With every pass of the buzzer, I became more and more aware of how gross and disgusting I was until it finally ended. Brandolin had been so intent on not fucking up my hair that I had, in fact, effectively hid from her my agony. I jumped in the shower to wash away the rest of the evidence off my body and, yes, cry some more. While she swept the floor, I shoved the shame as far away from me as possible, which is to say it didn't go very far because in a few weeks when it was time to cut my hair again, I stalled and stalled. Maybe we should just wait. How long can this pandemic go on anyway? Maybe I want to grow my hair out, until she finally wondered if she had done such a bad job that I decided I didn't want her to do it again. And then I had to come clean and tell her the truth. Through my tears, I told her how sorry I was she was going to be repeatedly subjected to such a terrible fate of interacting with my disgusting tiny hairs. After listening as compassionately as anyone could, she assured me that not only did she think my little hairs were cute and not gross, she was going to do her best to put me at ease next time. Ah, power dynamics, you are amazing. So there I was, sitting in the hard wooden chair in the bathroom, snugged up to the counter, taking every raggedy breath, watching the reflection of her face when she made eye contact in the mirror, held it, and purred, "I got you, baby," while running her fingers through my too long hair, and I felt myself begin to drop. Her hands got firmer as she stroked and corralled my hair, including those 3 wild, finicky, goddamn cowlicks in the back into a tight pony on the top of my head. My eyes closed as she fisted and pulled back on that little top spray of hair, forcing my chin high, and the bottom fell out of the floor, leaving me there, floating. I felt her breath as she whispered in my ear, "Open your eyes, baby. Look at me." What I saw through that cloudy haze was my top, utterly in control, completely in the moment, having fun and loving me. You're as far away from gross as anyone could ever be. I felt tears well up, but I kept my eyes open because she told me to. You can cry if you need to, baby, but you're sexy as fuck and so beautiful, and you're doing a very good job sitting right here being my very good boy, and I love you. And then I sat there, being her very good boy, doing the one job she'd asked me to do, feeling what it felt like to be loved in that way from someone like her and who she was to me. Feeling how the fear that had been wrapped around my throat unwound itself slowly, just a little bit more with every firm tilt shift of my head moved this way and that way, however she wanted. How the warmth in my chest grew a little larger and then filled me up, slowly, gently, to the hum of the buzzer. How a charge went through the top of my head, all through my body and out my feet every time her fingers rubbed my scalp to find any forgotten areas that needed more attention. It was and is heavenly. Power dynamics turned what had been traumatic in my body into something I greatly anticipated. This, in a nutshell, is my life's work with myself and others.
I'm getting a lot of hands. Leo asked me once, maybe 3 months in, 4 months in, what it felt like to read to him every night, what it felt like to engage in this switch dynamic that was so new. And this is what came out. Reading. The feeling starts low in my belly, rises up until it blooms. Ideas opening me up. My evening with a little bit of structure now, and you. Every day I'm reading to you tonight, and I start thumbing through books, abandoned stories strewn across my head, my bed, the table, the floor. That one there with the swollen edge, it was with me in the bath. Now tossed aside. Too crass or too scary, or just plain not good enough. This one. This is it. I can feel how the words will work as they mingle with your mental knots, releasing the unexpected. Your thoughts and my words lingering together, spent and slumbering. Alone, I trace the words with my fingers, first testing and tasting them, silent and then out loud. No, not that one. A wrong word, an interruption, a break in the imagery I want to create for you. Change it. Sharpened lead, striking through sentences, striking through pages. What's this? The unknown. A name, a concept, too far away to be familiar. Look it up and listen. I don't want to stumble. Look it up and listen. Turn it over on my tongue. 30 of 1440, the last of today. For you, as you work them out. These words, your day, tomorrow, me, and you all the time, descending. Reading, to you, sir. You stir and I fight to keep my eyes on the page, my clit humming along with these words and you stirring. Reading, to you, baby. You stir and I fight to keep from reaching to settle you, reaching to settle my mouth on your shoulder, and the words keep coming. How long has it been? No stirring now. I can feel your breath slowing now. I slow the words, testing, tasting your slumber, and your breath rising, falling. No words now. Book still open in my hands, and you open only for me. The day is done, and I watch you, holding your stillness, my breath matching yours, before I whisper, good night.
So good. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Leo and Brandolyn. And for the audience, I told you the hottest reading of the season. Thank you to all of our readers. Special thanks to July and Kristy. Thank you to everyone who joined this evening. If you do not have your copy of Sinister Wisdom 130 and you are a subscriber, it is winging its way to you. If you want a copy, please order one online at sinisterwisdom.org/SW130. The video from this evening's event will be available on the website tomorrow or Thursday. We'll put the link in the chat. We have more Zoom goodness coming your way. Next Tuesday night, a celebration of the Sinister Wisdom calendar. More at sinisterwisdom.org/events. But for now, we dance, and we will highlight you as the music goes along when you're dancing with us. And when the music ends, I will end the Zoom call. Thank you all.
Come on and say the L word. It's the only chance you got to stop the lying.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time.